Good evening and welcome to the City of Topeka Planning Commission meeting. We are a commission appointed by the mayor and the city council to plan for the orderly growth and development of the community, to hold public hearings, and to make recommendations to the city council on planning items. Please note that the city council rules state that the public hearings for planning cases shall be conducted solely by the planning commission. No additional public hearings will be conducted by the city council. Tonight's cases are tentatively scheduled to be heard by the City Council next month. Agendas can be found at topeka.org. Many of tonight's cases involve public hearings. For those cases, the procedure will be as follows. First, the Planning Department staff will summarize the case. Next, we will hear from the applicant or their representative. Then we will receive public testimony. Public comments should be addressed solely to the chair and are limited to 4 minutes. Chris, please take roll.
Mr. Beck.
Here.
Mr. Crook. Ms. Cavazos.
Here.
Mr. Gales.
Here.
Mr. Jefferson.
Here.
Mr. Hogg. Ms. Jordan. Mr. Lackey.
Here.
Mr. Woods.
Here.
We have 6 and a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, item B. Tonight we have 2 months' worth of minutes that we need to review and approve. I'd like to handle those separately. So first, let's discuss the minutes from November 17th, 2014.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Okay. Chris?
Mr. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Lackey.
Aye.
Mr. Jefferson.
Aye.
Mr. Gales.
Aye.
Ms. Cavazos.
Aye.
Mr. Beck.
Aye.
We have 6 and the motion passes.
Okay, let's refer to the minutes from January 21st, 2015.
I'd move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Chris?
Mr. Gales.
Aye.
Mr. Jefferson.
Aye.
Mr. Lackey.
Aye.
Mr. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Beck.
Aye.
Ms. Cavazos.
Aye.
6 affirmative, motion
Thank you.
passes.
Okay, item C, Mr. Fyander.
Mr. Chair, I do not have any communications at this time.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Let's move next to any declaration of conflict of interest or ex parte communications by the members of the commission or the staff. Anybody have any conversations to declare? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Let's start with action item E1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This action item tonight would require your vote on a approval of the city's potential or proposed 2016 to 2020 CIP. This is a requirement by local and state law so that the cities cannot undertake any public improvement or public utility improvement that is not consistent with the comprehensive plan for that community. So we do this once every year so that we can look at all the projects and we don't have to bring individual projects back. So this is really the beginning of the CIP process for the city, and you're the first step. Tonight and I'll go over the findings, and if you have any questions at the end, please let us know. We have a couple guests in the audience as well to help me. Nikki Lee is our City of Topeka Budget Director, and Sean Bruns is our City Engineer. So if we have any specific questions about the projects, we got some help. We pulled out, of all the CIP items proposed, there's about 15 projects that we pulled out we thought were really impacted the physical growth policies of the comprehensive plan. The other items are that we did not pull out were simply maintenance rehabilitation type projects. So these are typically new facilities or expansions, significant expansions of facilities. Those include You'll see roads, fire stations, water tanks, and some neighborhood infrastructure projects. So the findings are as such. All street and traffic projects were proposed within our Tier 1 of the urban growth area, UGA, which is our top priority. Do we have the map? You can see what we're talking about. Okay. There we go. So, all 15 projects or all street and traffic projects were within Tier 1 of the urban growth area, which is our highest priority for investment and growth. So that's the existing city limits. The 2 neighborhood infrastructure projects, which are in Oakland and North Topeka East, they implement neighborhood plans that have been adopted by this body. Infill sidewalks and complete street projects, they support transportation choices, which is a pillar of the land use and growth management plan as well. The infill sidewalks will actually implement a soon-to-be-completed pedestrian master plan this year. The South Fire Station number 14 is also within employment. Is within the employment tier of the growth management plan and addresses service capacity issues in existing and future Tier 1 areas. There are 3 water tanks. Southeast elevated tank, which is on Southeast 41st, is located within Tier 3 of the UGA, but it does increase the capacity for compact growth within future Tier 1 and 2 areas. It does not directly cause growth in Tier 3. Same thing with the other 2. West elevated tank is located actually within the Sherwood Improvement District, more than likely. This will build redundancies in the pressure zones for areas that are actually in Tier 1 and Tier 2. And then lastly, the south elevated tank and South Topeka is within the employment tier and does the same thing. It would improve the pressure zones and redundancies for reliability in future Tier 1 areas of the city, and does not directly cause growth within outside the city. So, based on those findings, staff concurs that the following projects of the 2016-2020 CIP are in conformity with the comprehensive plan, and we'll stand for any questions, comments.
Members of the commission, any questions for staff? Yes.
Mr. Chair, quick question. The location of the South Fire Station, perhaps I overlooked it, but
The, no, that is to be determined,
okay.
and there's no specific location other
Not
than.
that you want to show your cards just yet, I'm sure, but
Well, yeah, it would need to be in the vicinity of, I would say, 57th, southwest 57th, and, you okay? Yeah,
okay, thanks.
so, down near Target, somewhere.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the 29th Street KTA interchange, have there been any discussions with Secretary of Transportation about that? And who's gonna pay for it?
Well, we have, that was our number 2 priority, I think, on our local consult with KDOT last year from the MPO. They are, I don't have any, anything more than a placeholder in the CIP right now. I think this is, yes, the 5th year out, just to reserve a spot for design. But no, as you know, there's quite a bit of discussion that will have to incur with transportation budgets at the state level to have a new highway program in the future. So no, we are anticipating the project. It is certainly it's definitely not anything in our immediate future.
Well, since our job is to make comments, my comment is that project's a waste of money. Period.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Mr. Fyander, did either of your folks in the audience have any additional items they wanted to add? Staff in the audience?
Does not appear.
Okay. While there is technically not an official public hearing with this, looking upon the audience is with a show of hands. There are folks here that are present to speak in regards to this, would like to make comments. Is there anyone here this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed. Mr. Lackey, obviously taking your concerns into question. At this point, we'd want to have any further discussion and basically see what the intent of the commission is.
I just wanted to go on record.
Fair enough. Any other comments or concerns from the commission? Okay.
Well, I think the summary that Mr. Finders presented is thorough and covers any questions that I would have.
Fair enough. My compliments, Mr. Finder and staff. Appreciate you preparing that and readying it. With that, I'd entertain a motion regarding this. Not everybody at once. Okay, Mr. Beck has
Motion for approval?
have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion regarding this? Seeing none. Chris, would you call roll?
Mr. Woods?
Aye.
Mr. Lackey?
Aye.
Mr. Jefferson?
Aye.
Mr. Gales?
Aye.
Ms. Cavazos? Aye. Ms. Beck? Mr. Beck?
Aye.
Motion passes with 6.
Okay, thank you. Let's move forward with item F, public hearings. We have item number 1, Ms. Driver.
Okay, thank you. This is item F1, it's case C-15-2. The applicant is Southwest Publishing and Mailing Corporation. They've requested a zoning change from C4 Commercial District to I1 Light Industrial. Property contains 3.6 acres. It's located at 2600 Northwest Topeka Boulevard. Currently, the property contains a vacant warehouse previously used for a commercial publishing and mailing facility since at least 1970. That is a permitted use in the C4 district. This applicant intends to sell the existing 45,000 square foot building for uses, would like to sell the existing building for uses within the I1 district. No specific proposals are known at this time. Property is at the northeast intersection of Topeka Boulevard and US 24 Highway. It's a mix of retail, highway, commercial, heavy commercial, light industrial uses in that area and along the corridor of Highway 24. Really, the property has been zoned for heavy commercial type uses since 1965. The building itself has been constructed as a publishing facility since 1970. It was expanded in 1997 for a 14,000 square foot expansion onto the publishing facility. The nature of this type of publishing use makes the existing building more suitable for some I1 light industrial uses rather than strictly limiting the building itself to retail or commercial uses. Looking at the comprehensive plan, the 2040 update does designate the corridor of Highway 24 for community commercial uses. That category in the plan also describes areas where the existing character and pattern of development provides a heavy mix of light industrial and highway commercial uses. In those types of areas, either light industrial or commercial would be appropriate to reuse existing buildings. The applicant held a neighborhood meeting on January 22nd. No nearby property owners or interested parties attended the meeting other than the applicant and planning staff. Staff recommends approval. I am open for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Does the commission have any questions for Ms. Driver? Yes, Patrick?
Not a totally related question, but what is a meeting like when there are only the property owner and staff there to answer questions? Pretty quick, speedy meeting.
Yes, it was. They stayed for about an hour, as it says in their neighborhood meeting, just to make sure no one else came up.
Excellent. Any further questions or concerns for Ms. Driver? Okay. Seeing none, we'll open up the floor for public comments. If you wish, excuse me, let me step back there. Actually, we'd like to hear from the applicant. Got ahead of myself. So at this time, if we have a representative of the applicant, step forward.
Tyler Patton, actually counsel for Southwest Publishing, kind of taking the lead on this. So happy to answer questions. This is a fairly uneventful application, as Ms. Driver pointed out, and apparently no one in the neighborhood even thought enough to come ask me questions. So if there's any questions from the commission, I'm happy to answer them, but it's pretty straightforward.
Commission, any questions? Yes, Mr. Jefferson?
Mr. Patton, I believe there's no specific uses intended at this time. Your client is just trying to sell the property, is that correct?
Yeah, they're actually, Southwest was under the impression during the entire course of their ownership that it was actually zoned for light industrial, and that was their use. And in fact, in '97, when they expanded, that was one of the things that Southwest asked me, is I thought that as we cleared this up in '97, we expanded our kind of industrial publishing operation, and I said, hey, who knows what happened in '97. So the facility is really only marketable as kind of an industrial facility. And so in preparing to market it and getting ready to list it, they discovered that it was not zoned correctly. And so no, there's no specific use. They've had some interest, nothing official yet, but obviously that interest was kind of modifying the building as it currently is set up for kind of light industrial. I think one of the initial interested parties was a kind of a cabinet manufacturer, something along those lines, but nothing specific yet. But again, really until we can make sure that the building can be used as it's set up, everyone's a little leery on getting too far down the road.
So it's just really because of the way the current building and operation is now, it just fit better. It would just sell better if it was light industrial.
And Ms. Driver's been inside. It is, at this point, it is, I can't imagine much of a commercial use for it. It is very much an industrial print operation at this point, and really its only use would be some kind of similar kind of production facility or something along those lines that would also require, warehouse thing like that. So unless somebody wants to, knock it down and start from scratch, I don't think there's much use or possibility to sell it as a commercial building at this point.
Thanks.
It's my understanding, Mr. Feiner, a new occupant under the new use would have to come back for a certificate of occupancy because of the change, correct? That would be an obligation they'd have.
Yes, if it went to more of an industrial code use, they would have to come back to the city for a change of use, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions for the applicant's representative? Seeing none, thank you. Now we will open it up for public comments. If you wish to comment regarding this, please take note of the time frame and state your name and your residence when you step forward. So this time, do we have anyone that wishes to speak for or against the project? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comments section of this. What's the intent of the commission here? Any further questions or concerns?
No. I think it, excuse me, I think it looks like a pretty routine change they're surrounded by. similar zones up there. And it fit right in with the neighborhood, so I would want to vote for it.
Is the chair prepared to entertain a motion?
I am prepared.
So moved.
Mr. Woods has made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay. Seeing none, Chris, would you take roll?
Ms. Cavazos? Aye. Mr. Gales?
Aye.
Mr. Jefferson?
Aye.
Mr. Lackey?
Aye.
Mr. Woods?
Aye.
Mr. Beck?
Aye.
You have 6 affirming.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, we'll move to item 2. Ms. Driver, we'll hear from you again.
Thank you. This is item F2, case CU 15-1. The applicant is Dillon's Real Estate Company. They are requesting a conditional use permit to remodel and rebuild a legal non-conforming billboard on property currently zoned C4 Commercial District. Property is located at 1700 Southwest Topeka Boulevard. It's between 17th and 18th Street. The entire property contains approximately 48,352 square feet. It's presently occupied by a 55-foot tall, 2-sided billboard comprising 672 square feet per sign face that's located currently at the south property line. It's existed on the site for at least 25 years. The specific use requirements in section 182225 lay out conditions for the relocation, remodeling, and rebuilding of legal non-conforming billboards, which I will go through. They have demonstrated compliance with the location settings, indicating the location, size, height, and area. 55 feet tall, 672 square feet. Billboard is to be constructed or reconstructed on an all-steel monopole structure. Number 3, it does not exceed 750 square feet in area. The billboard is not located upon the roof of a building or attached to any building. The condition about being less than 1,320 feet from any other such sign doesn't apply in this case, since it's rebuilt on the same parcel of land. The billboard is relocated not less than 200 feet from the underpass, overpass, or bridge. It is not placed within 300 feet of a residential dwelling, nor within 500 feet of a religious assembly. The billboard's not within proximity to historic properties of significance. Does not include the vertical stacking of billboards on a single pole. Only condition the applicant still would need to demonstrate compliance with is showing us a revised site plan that does indicate the billboard sign itself will be set back at least 20 feet from the property's right-of-way line, the public right-of-way line, which would be along Topeka Boulevard. Subject to those conditions in the staff report, staff is recommending approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission for Ms. Driver? Mr.
I
Beck?
did have one question. Just driving by and looking at the existing sign, I noticed that there was a smaller sign below the big one. That will not be allowed in this case, is that correct? It will be a single structure with one.
It will be one
sign.
single sign on a monopole, yes.
Thank you.
The small one at the north end of the property stays as is.
Yes, it's 300 square feet. It's permitted in C4.
Any further questions for Ms. Driver? Seeing none, if we have a representative of the applicant here who'd like to speak, please step forward.
Travis Brown with Lamar Advertising. Just said it's kind of a straightforward there. She laid it out. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Is it gonna be an electronic billboard or just a regular billboard?
It is not. It's just going to be a static face like it's presently there.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? It was painless.
Yeah.
You're free to step down.
I guess
Thank
that, may I ask a question?
Sir, please step back.
I was going to ask just another question about the existing 300-foot sign. That one will also be converted to a monopole, is that correct?
Yes, it will also be reworked.
Will it be elevated to a higher
No,
height?
it will be the same. It will have a, it is a 30-foot height above ground. So,
All right, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, Okay, seeing none, thank you. I think Ms. Drivers noted the items I had concerns about, which dealt more with just making sure we didn't stray too far from current code and meeting the minimal compliance. Is there any other concerns or questions or comments of the commission regarding this item?
So what is that?
Yes.
Any question?
Yes, sir.
Got questions. Just a question for staff. With the redevelopment of this, what's the intent with the original building? Will the new structure be crossing both property lines to where it becomes a single lot, basically, or will it still remain as two individual?
You mean the new quick shop?
Correct.
They're combining both parcels, so the new building will be further back on where the building that's demolished is currently. The new quick shop will be back there, and then they're gonna have a new gas pump island out front, along the 17th Street side.
And then as far as additional signage allowable for the new quick shop, what's their allowance for another large sign?
Anything, it's zone C4, so anything up to 300 square feet, 55 feet in height,
As many as they want?
yes,
Okay, thank you.
would be allowed.
At this time, we'll open up the microphone for public comments. If you wish to speak on or for or against this, please step forward and state your name and address. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in regards to this? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comments portion of this. Any further concerns or questions of the commission? Entertain a motion?
Guess I will just make one other
Yes,
comment.
Mr. Beck.
I know it's, the existing one is in conformance with C4 zoning, and the new one is just a relocation of the existing one. I wish that there was opportunity, in this case, where we're rebuilding that corner, to potentially relocate one of them off of the property together, further away from that intersection. I think that having those two, one larger sign elevated and then a smaller one that's below it, I've not even noticed the larger one very often, because I don't look up that far when I'm at that intersection. But I think if it was a perfect world, it'd be a great opportunity to remove one of those larger signs and make that corner a little nicer presentation coming into our downtown area on Topeka Boulevard. Just a comment. And that coupled with the fact that with C4 zoning, they do have opportunity to put more larger signs up on that corner, which could just make it more of a nuisance than, in my opinion, more of a nuisance than a pleasantry.
Other quick shops around town haven't gone too far overboard, I don't think, have they?
They have not.
The new ones, like at Sixth and McVicker? places
No,
like that?
just the opportunity.
Most of them are still using kind of the standardized fuel marketing signs with the pricing on it.
Mhm.
Any further questions or concerns? Is there a motion of the commission?
I'd move for approval, subject to staff recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Jefferson. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second from Ms. Cavazos. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Lisa, if you'll take roll, please.
Mr. Gales.
Aye.
Mr. Jefferson.
Aye.
Mr. Lackey.
Aye.
Mr. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Beck.
Aye.
And Ms. Cavazos. Have 6 affirmative votes.
Okay, thank you. Let's proceed to item F3, subdivision regulations. Mr. Warner?
Good evening, Commissioners. Dan Warner, planning office. I'm going to talk to you about ASR 14-1, which is a series of revisions to the Topeka subdivision regulations. First, we're going to do a quick little reminder of Topeka's plating authority. If we could switch to the presentation. Topeka has subdivision authority over the outside of Topeka out to 3 miles within the city boundary. So the the darker line on that map that kind of forms a cloud around Topeka, that's the 3-mile boundary. That's where Topeka has subdivision authority. That's why we're here tonight to talk about subdivision regulation revisions. And then within that 3 mile, we recently have updated our land use and growth management plans. We have the urban growth area, which is a little tighter to the city, that kind of that green area there, and then the existing city limits, which we call Tier 1 within our urban growth area. So there's an overview of the plating authority and the different urban growth area considerations. The proposed subdivision revisions implement major recommendations from the Land Use and Growth Management Plan 2040 regarding newly created lots and future urbanization outside the city. This body, the Planning Commission, approved the Land Use and Growth Management Plan on October 20th of 2014. Most of you are probably aware of this, but we'll talk about it again. The existing plating exemption that's in place today permits a new lot that has 3 acres and 200 feet of frontage. Since it's a plating exemption, that's not something that, even though Topeka has subdivision authority out to the 3 mile, that's not a land division that Topeka will see. This rural residential sprawl development pattern does not reserve land for future urbanization. These 3-acre lots will never become urban neighborhoods, and the city cannot grow affordably into these areas or in a compact manner. At previous meetings, we've gone line by line through these revisions. We're not going to do that tonight. Just provide a kind of a summary of the major points here regarding the plating exemption. So within the urban growth area, the exemption would raise from 3 acres to 20 acres. It would be 300 feet of contiguous frontage and a lot width depth ratio no greater than 1 to 2. Outside of the urban growth area, but within 3 miles, the exemption would stay at 3 acres, but would raise the frontage to 300 feet and add a design criteria for lot width to depth ratio no greater than 1 to 2. And then also existing legal lots of record, so lots that were created legally under some subdivision regulations previously, will be eligible for the exemption. And the key point here is that these are possible exemptions if there's any other regulation that requires a plat, such as a water line being outside the city. If somebody wants to connect to water outside the city, that requires a plat and annexation. We're not changing those rules. In that case, the exemption would not be available for those folks. I'll show you a series of images here that try to help explain these revisions, the existing rules, but then also the land use policy that we've already talked about. So this is a 20-acre parent parcel here outlined in blue. So the existing regulations, as I mentioned already, permit 3-acre lots with 200 feet of frontage, and again, no plat is approved by the city when that development pattern shown in that image is developed. So essentially in that 20 acres, you can create 5 lots, each with a driveway onto that section line road. That is the existing rules today. And again, that's a platting exemption if there's no other reason to plat. We also have an existing policy within our Land Use and Growth Management 2025 that says new lots that do have to plat have to be 20 acres. That's a policy today. And that's not flexible. Basically, it says it's 20 acres, and that's the policy. So again, not very flexible. As we propose new design standards within the Land Use and Growth Management Plan, we are providing some flexibility to this situation. We are saying that there may be opportunity to create new lots less than 20 acres, provided that a plat is approved by the city and that 20% of the 20 acres is developed with 300 feet of frontage, and the remainder, the 80%, is set aside for future urban growth. So in this example, there are actually 2 lots that are developed within that 20% and sharing a driveway, and then essentially one lot on that 80% that's left over. The 300 feet, we include that because 300 feet is the depth needed to create a city block. So within 300 feet, you can have lots that are 170 feet deep and have a 60-foot right-of-way. So as we move the example along a little bit, essentially what you get then with that 300 feet is a block that can be split down further with a road put sort of down the middle there. So within that 20%, we create new lots and have a road that goes down. And then eventually get to the point where you can urbanize that entire property, and it allows the city to grow compact and affordably in that 20 acres. So that is some of the background and the policies that we've been talking about here for a while. With that, staff recommends approval of the proposed subdivision regulations, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Any questions from the commission for Mr. Warner?
Yeah, I've got a question. Dan, I remember when we first started this, it's kind of complicated. You had a lot of recommendations, but then you had some meetings with the county and some landowners along the fringe edge of the city. Were any changes made to that initial draft? And so what were they?
I believe we refined the idea that existing lots of record, so existing legal lots of record, would be eligible for the exemption going forward. And really these policies are meant to apply to new lots. So the existing lots that were legally created would be eligible for the exemption if there's no other reason to plat. So that is an idea that evolved throughout that process.
And so more of a clarification. Than a
Right, I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lucky. Any further questions for Mr. Warner? Okay, seeing none. We don't technically have a applicant on this one, so we would go ahead and open the floor for public comments. If you wish to speak regarding this particular case, if you would step forward and state your name and address, please. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to comment regarding this? Yes, sir.
Pardon me, Thane Hoffman. My wife and I own 17 acres out on West 10th, west of Urish Road. And we purchased that over 40 years ago. It appears that if this would go through and we did not have an exemption, why we would, the intent is not, from the planning department, is not to build a sewer out to that area for another 25 years. Obviously, I don't have another 25 years to wait on that. I will say right now that I have just divided it up into 4 lots in order to try to keep some resale value there. But in general, I did not understand the logic of this. I was a state architect under Governor Graves. I took some planning at K-State in graduate school. This is not a new area for me, but it seems to me like what we are doing is concerned only with the city. There are many of us who come from the farm who have reasons that we want to have more land than a city lot. This is America. We still will be able to do that. But what it means is that we're going to have to take up more agricultural land and move further out in a time when, number one, your own municipal code 1320-220 indicates that one of your goals is to preserve agricultural land. And also at a time when we are supposed to be, or encouraged to be more efficient, energy efficient, we're obviously creating a situation where people are going to have to drive further. The telephone lines, things like that are going to be longer. It's efficient for one entity, but from the larger perspective, it simply isn't. I would go further and ask that there be a study made of smaller lots. It's my professional understanding that we go way back, the original reason for 3 acres was because of lateral fields, and that was an arbitrary number that sort of worked for lateral fields. We've been on our property for 44 years. We have not had problems with our lateral field. We could easily fit within an acre. I could probably get within a half acre if you didn't count some setbacks from the lateral field. And it seems to me that if we're trying to get higher density, that we should look at sizing the lot based on what it really requires for the lateral field, and that's already covered in Municipal Code 1840-030. So that's my concern, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Mr. Hoffman, it was a pleasure seeing you here
yes.
tonight. My compliments seeing you here tonight. My business partner, Mike, obviously, at one time used to work with you, so it's nice to see you out here. But hopefully that's not a conflict of interest. It's been 30 years, so anyway.
It's been a long time.
That having been said, I would ask if you would indulge Mr. Warner an opportunity to maybe respond to a couple of your concerns,
Certainly.
that he may be able to address them directly, or if he would defer to Mr. Finder, if you have a preference.
I guess really I think the point is that the plan is emphasizing is that we're trying to get the density within the city where we have already made the investments in infrastructure and whatnot, and to create even smaller lots outside of the city without all the urban services of roads and sewer and fire stations sort of exacerbates the problem that we're trying to get our arms around, get our hands around, and that we can't afford to take care of all that. We're trying to really keep the density where we have already made those investments, and try to preserve some land outside the city that we can grow into when we get there. So I guess that's.
And to Mr. Hoffman's concern, technically he could still apply for the exemption, subject to the availability of the utilities to his lot. But if I recall, you indicated you're on how many acres?
17. And
17. Okay.
the city is within 200 or 300 feet of me, but the sewer line at that point is 30 feet above where the land. So there is no intent to make a 1.5 mile long sewer line to where it could serve our property within. And I met with city planning already, and that was the word that I received.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, thank you, Mr. Hoffman. And unless there's any other questions or comments from the commission for Mr. Hoffman? Mr. Lucky?
Mr. Hoffman, you mentioned preserving agriculture. Your 17 acres, is it farmed now? Or?
No, the 17 acres that I have is entirely wooded. It's very steep. It's on a cliff. There's no practical way of creating an urban area like is shown here. The roads are going to have to come entirely around. I can't create those on my property. It's not agricultural, but what's going on here, this piece here that they're talking about preserving for 25 years is agriculture, and it would be, other people would be buying that, but mine is not, no.
Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Hoffman? Yes, Mr. Woods.
May I ask, you mentioned the issue, help me understand a little bit more with the sewer line. So what do you currently do now on the property?
I have at the present time, there's one house, my house,
Okay.
on that land. And you know, I'm retired, I'm looking to try to sell that eventually for my retirement. And so obviously what I want to do, I've held it for 40 years, I would like to make a profit, and at this rate, why, I'll be lucky to sell it for what I bought it for back in the 70s.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak regarding this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comments. Any further conversation from the commission?
Mr.
Yes,
Chair?
Mr. Finder.
I'm sorry. I probably wouldn't mind addressing one of Mr. Hoffman's other comments, just for the benefit.
Please do so.
He did mention about smaller lots.
Mhm.
I think, correct. And I think it's one of the things that actually what Dan went over would advocate for if done correctly. We actually don't put a floor, if you will, on the size of a lot. Provided you can get septic approval from the county. That 20% set aside, if you have a 20 acre, we're setting aside 20%. Honestly, there's no adherence to a 3 acre or even a 2 acre for that matter, because I do know there are some that are less than 1 acre. That's really not our call. So as long as the county health agency would approve lateral field on whatever size, they determine the size of that lot. So we don't want to put any sort of boundary, I call it a floor, on the size of a lot. So I guess in this sense, we are in agreement from that standpoint. If you can do a small lot, this does not prevent it at all.
Okay. And that was my recollection of our meetings when we discussed this, is there were obviously flexibility, the use of the word guidelines, obviously it provided some flexibility to deal with the various circumstances each parcel may warrant, the challenges that come with it. So in his particular case, it's not necessarily a boilerplate like you see in Mr. Warner's example, so.
And if I may follow up, that's the other thing we took out of our process with notifying owners outside the city. We had built flexibility into these standards, but I think there is even more sensitivity to every property is different. Every situation is about, we talked to 140 people. We probably had 120 different answers. So that it really comes down, you have the whole intent, and this is if we can impart anything about this, the whole intent is go ahead, we would like to have city review plats or subdivisions under 20 acres, and if you can show us that it is in an area that may already be developed or is not going to be developed, are we still reserving area for future compact, affordable growth? There are some areas that will not be grown into in that manner. So we recognize that. And so allowing some further lot splitting to go on and keeping with the character of the area is below 20 acres would be acceptable. It's just that, but we're going to have to review each one, and that's the whole point of the platting exemption is right the way it is now. We would have no chance to even review those. So we'd like to think there's a lot of flexibility here, but keep in mind the overarching goal is this an area that the city could grow into, and if there's no sewer, that we know there's going to be a need for a sewer interceptor in your area one day to grow that area into urban densities. The community is going to have to make that decision to make that investment. We don't know that now. So that's what we planned for. This was kind of what planning is about. We don't know. But we don't want to, there's no guarantee we will grow into that area, but I'll guarantee you one thing is we won't grow into the area if it's all divided. So I would Sorry, that went on a little bit longer.
No, I think that, sir, if you'd like to make a comment, please step forward to the microphone. If the commission's okay, I think we still have, I don't recall, but I entertain a motion to open public comments. After Mr. Finder's spoken here, we have another individual in the audience. Is there a motion to open the floor for public comments?
I move that we.
So moved, and a second?
Second.
Fair enough. With that, sir, please step forward.
I'm Chuck Altmeyer, local builder developer, and I'd like to actually commend the planning for recognizing the fact that we are choking this city down to no growth. We've got interceptors in different directions of the city, and I actually wrote a letter to the county commissioners 3 years ago that we need to stop the 3-acre tracts in a septic system that's really choking this city down. Although I would like to say that we need to be a little more aggressive on annexation too. Back in 2007, we completed a subdivision here in town with 160 homes, and we were knocking on doors to try to find land to develop. And part of the problem was that there wasn't enough land annexed. And so the city needs to take some of these problems too on their own too, so that us developers can get in there and develop in a structure. I'm doing a Timber Ridge subdivision right now that's outside of the city. I asked for it to be annexed, but there's no way it could be because it was an island. And but we are doing it with the high growth pattern as you're showing on your map there. And we have about 100 acres, and there's 250 sites in it. So, but I do think the city needs to have this happen, and I think there are allowances, as you've shown here, for existing land that's on 3 acres that you're allowing that to go ahead and be developed as such. But one other thing is, and this has probably nothing to do with the Planning Commission, but if we don't get a handle on the EPA, there will be no more developers. Because they are choking us down to containment of the water and the minerals and everything that runs off our land to contain it right there on that building site. That's hard to do. And they're driving our costs out of sight. So if anybody would have voted for Newt Gingrich, he says the EPA is not fixable. It's broke. Start over. Get rid of them. So, but anyway, I do think like the 14 acres, there's no restriction that there couldn't get maybe as many as 3 per acre as far as development goes. So he could actually, if he gets sewer to the project, he could actually probably get more like 30 homes on there. Is that right?
Mr. Finder, would you like to comment? You look like you're pent up and ready to say something.
Yeah. We would want to have all the city services, all 5 of them, ready to go, not just the sewer. So we have to look at fire, police, water, and our roads. So sewer's obviously a big one. We do have some. We even have a waiver for that, but you'll still have to probably end up being pay for your sewer to come there. But that is the whole point, though. Is we have a major investment as a community to make into an area to allow it to grow. We have to make that decision in the best interest of the taxpayers and that we currently have, so that we provide the sewer, we provide the water, we provide fire. We're not overreaching. And I think when we get boxed in or choked off a little bit, we develop in a pattern that is really hard to serve cost effectively. It just is. So every property is different, so I'll defer to
it is, yeah. And when you say you provide, of course, we need the interceptor to get there, but
Exactly.
But when it comes down to the individual housing, we spend about $40,000 a site to get the sewer, the water, the streets, all the amenities, the electricity and all that. So the developer actually pays for that out of pocket and donates it to whatever township, city, or whatever to maintain it, which they usually go 20 years without any maintenance on those. So the idea of the taxation on those houses is really beneficial to the area. So, but the interceptor, I mean, you know, if you build, they will come, is what they say, but we've never had the concept of leading with roads or leading with sewer, because we just, the funds aren't there, so.
And I would agree, that's the point of the plan, is to have the infrastructure be the lead and development to follow, as opposed to playing catch-up, because we never do a good job at that. We're usually never caught up, actually. And it hurts taxpayers. And you're right, the developer pays for those on-site costs. And the services that I'm referring to are more the arterial roads, the interceptors, the water transmission lines, and fire and police, obviously, as well. So.
When they sell off the 3-acre sites, they're getting, you know, $50,000 for those sites. They provided nothing. Because the roads are usually built by the townships. The water meters are about the same price as what the city is now, in a lot of cases anyway. So that is an easier, more beneficial way to develop is 3-acre sites, but I do think that this town's getting choked in to where we're not gonna be able to, although back in 1960, we had 125,000 population, and today, what do we have? So, and I've built over 1,000 houses, so how'd that happen? But,
Mr. Dolmeyer, thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Any further comments from the commission? Seeing none, we'll reclose the public comment section. Any further discussion? I will note that I felt that staff did a very good job of clarifying that some of this is to start eliminating these bowling lane style developments that were pretty typical on the arterial roads, that, as you could see, as the city was growing here in the last 20 years, we were creeping up on many of those, and those lots became very hard to develop in any manner beyond their current condition, and created obviously challenges, which we're talking about now with the utility issues. So as much as Mr. Hoffman's particular lot is unique, I think the exemption process allows for a little further review of that, and gives flexibility to staff to find a solution when one can be found, and to work with the property owner. So I want to commend the staff and Mr. Fyander for taking some time and diligence and getting a lot of input on this to come up with at least the first step moving forward. So, any further comments or concerns?
Yeah, I'd also add my ditto to that. I think staff did a good job, and obviously have come up with a good product, because nobody's satisfied with it.
Duly noted. Anyone else? Is there a motion amongst the commissioners?
I'd move that we approve the ordinance as presented.
Mr. Lucky's motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Woods. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Chris, if you would call roll.
Mr. Gales.
Aye.
Ms. Pazos. Aye. Mr. Beck.
Aye.
Mr. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Lackey.
Aye.
And Mr. Jefferson.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
With that, we'll complete the public hearing items. Mr. Fyander, I don't have any other items down here unless you have anything you want to add.
I'll just remind there, because of your actions tonight, there is no meeting next week.
Vacation.
No, there wasn't going to be a meeting anyway, but.
Duly noted. Thank you. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
A second? Second. And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I don't hear anybody opposed. We're done. Thank you.
Right on time, too.
Yeah.
That's right.
7 o'clock even.
Does that mean our paychecks get docked?